Good morning, everybody, or actually good afternoon. It's after 12 o'clock. Hello. We're letting everybody join us. Give you a minute to all settle in. I'm having a look at all your beautiful faces. I'm Lorraine Atchison. I'm Managing Director of Women in Business and delighted to be hosting this session today where we're going to be learning about the fantastic female founder program that's run by Techstart Ventures. So we're just going to give a couple of minutes for everybody to join us in this virtual room. And hopefully you've got a glass of water, a cup of tea, whatever you need to just settle in for the next hour. And I'm just looking. So throughout this next hour, we're going to be hearing about the Female Founders Programme. Women in Business have been working with Techstart Ventures on this for 4 years. So this will be the fourth year of the partnership. And this is an amazing opportunity for female founders like you to get access to fantastic grant funding to help really grow your business. We'll be hearing soon from two of our colleagues from Techstart Ventures, and then we'll be hearing from an amazing founder, Leanne Schmitz, who has availed of this funding in the last couple of years. We're going to have then time for Q&A, but throughout the webinar, if you do have questions, just please post them in the chat. So at the bottom of the screen, you should see a chat function, and in there you can post a question. And we will be keeping an eye on that. I'll be keeping an eye on that. And at the end, we will refer to all the questions in there, but we'll also go to you in case you want to ask any questions at the end once you've heard from everything. Today is also being recorded, so some people will be watching this on catch up. We will make it available to all attendees afterwards. So without further ado, I'll introduce now my colleague, Audrey Osborne from Techstart Ventures.
Hello, everybody. My name is Audrey Osborne, and I'm an investor here at Techstart Ventures. Kathleen, if you'll share our screens. We are so excited to be partnering with Women in Business for the fourth time to bring this Female Founders Grant Competition to life. Over the last 4 years, we have seen some really novel and innovative concepts come through, some of which we've been able to provide the grant funding to and eventually go on to provide equity investment for. Next slide. So who are we? Techstart Ventures at its core is a venture capitalist fund located here in Northern Ireland as well as in Scotland. And we invest in early stage technology companies across those areas. We've been going for the last 11 years, and we have over 200 million pounds of capital under management to invest in those early stage ideas. And we've been quite active across the last 11 years and have over 140 companies that we've seen. And those span from everything from deep med tech spinouts from the university to interesting business models in dog food and hair care. So it is a broad spectrum of things looking for novelty and innovation. I will highlight that Kathleen will speak specifically about the grants, and the grants do not have to be tech focused, but the equity side of the business is. Next slide. So with equity investments, like what are we looking for and what does that even mean? Very different from the grants. Equity investments is capital provided to exchange and shares in your business. So we become a partner and go on the long-term journey with you. And we invest in those early stage companies. So things at the ideation stage can be pre-product, pre-revenue, looking for really innovative opportunities. We're looking for strong founder opportunity fit. So people who have lived and breathed the problem and are looking to take that and grow it to the next level. Venture capital itself is an extremely niche product. So we're looking for extremely large opportunities with a global presence and people who want to grow at a rapid pace. And we work very closely with these investments that we bring in from that ideation stage through the next 18, 24 months, hopefully to where they achieve product market fit and we can help them raise capital from others. That's kind of where we specialize in the core part of our business. But one of our unique features is the proof of concept grant fund that Kathleen and her team runs. And that is a great feeder program for us, specifically for women who are considering equity investment. It allows you to get to know us, get some non-dilutive funding to get you up and started and see if equity is the right fit for growing your business down the line.
Okay, thanks, Audrey. Hopefully everybody can hear me now. So I'm Kathleen from Techstart Ventures, and it's really good to see so many of you online here today to hear about the grant fund and the Female Founders competition. So following on from Audrey, I am going to tell you a little bit more about Techstart Ventures Grant Fund and in particular the Female Founders competition itself. I'm going to take you through a few slides covering the fund and the competition. And if you have any questions, I would just really encourage you to make a note of the question or pop it in the chat, as Lorraine's already said, and then we'll take all the questions as a group at the end. But yes, I'd really encourage you to ask a question because your question may help others as well. And I think we'll get more out of the question session itself. So in terms of Techstart's Proof of Concept Grant Fund, our current pot is worth £7.2 million, and we launched that back in June 2025. So that's currently the grant programme that we are running here in Northern Ireland. We have been in business for the last 11 years, and over those 11 years, we have distributed over £9 million worth of grant funding to entrepreneurs throughout Northern Ireland. It is a competitive fund, and we run different calls throughout the year. The Proof of Concept Grant Fund was established to support entrepreneurs at the earliest stage of their journey, really to help them explore the commercial potential and technical viability of a novel concept. So in summary, that really means, we look for somebody to have come forward, having identified a problem or a gap in the market. They've come up with a novel solution to solve that problem or gap, and the grant can help them prove that their idea will or will not work. So that's really the basis of the grant fund. In terms of the grants that are available, so our grant fund as a whole currently offers concept grants and concept plus grants. Those concept grants are of up to 15k each, and they are awarded twice per annum. Our concept plus grants are currently up to 30k, and they are also offered twice per annum. So if you are interested outside of the Female Founders competition in one of these grants, you may be eligible to apply for one of these as well. We advertise closing dates and further information on our website, but also on our Techstart Grants LinkedIn page. So I would encourage you to keep an eye on both of those. Within the concept grants, we also run a regional innovation challenge, and that will be held once per annum. And we are actually planning to launch that tomorrow for 2026. So keep an eye on social media for the announcement of that. Through that regional challenge, we'll be offering 15k concept grants. In addition to that, then once per annum, we also run this Female Founders Grant Competition in partnership with Women in Business, where we offer Concept Plus grants to female founders. As Lorraine said, this will be the 4th year that we've ran this specific competition. So this Female Founders Grant Competition, we took that to really focus and support female founders in Northern Ireland. So this competition itself is inviting female founders to come forward with a novel, innovative business idea. So something new, something different that hasn't been done before. And the grants that we are offering through this competition are the Concept Plus grants, which are currently up to 35k. The grants through this competition will be awarded by Techstart Ventures, and within the competition itself, multiple grants are available. In addition, the successful applicants who receive the grant will also be provided with a business mentor through Women in Business. In summary, how the grants work. So a couple of things we wanted to highlight at this stage are the grants are paid in arrears. So if you go through the process and you are successful, I will have to highlight at this stage, you don't receive the money up front. So if you're successful, what we will do is we will work with you to agree how you're proposing to spend the 35k. The majority of that must go to an independent third party. So for example, to make it easy, if you wanted to do some software development and it was costing 35k, that's where the grant would go. How it would work is you would appoint your software developer, they would undertake the work, you would pay them, and we would reimburse you. And we would do that in installments. So you don't necessarily have to have 35k cash sitting there to pay for us to reimburse. We can work with you as best we can, and we're really flexible, and everybody works in different ways. So it's whatever agreement you can get in place with your independent third party or your supplier. paying them in installments and us reimbursing you accordingly. We will agree your project plan of expenditure. So it might be the lump sum going to one supplier. It might be a breakdown of different activities. Again, everybody's varies. But I will highlight, if you do apply as a limited company, you can use up to 30% of the grant to cover your own time. So you can outsource 70% and the remainder can be spent on yourself. In terms of what we look for through the grant fund, so a couple of key things. The first thing is novelty and innovation. So something new, something different, ideally that hasn't been done before. And it's really identifying that problem or that gap, talking about your solution and how you can build it and turn it into a successful business. The next thing is really the market. So in terms of, large market opportunities, and we want to be able to see that this could grow into something that's potentially global. In addition to that, what we like to see within the market is as much customer validation and customer engagement as possible. Because this grant fund is competitive, we really encourage people to go out and speak to the market, get some feedback from end users, your potential customers, to really confirm that they agree that there's something here and that they would pay for your solution. Because it is a competitive fund, usually those people that have done a significant amount of customer engagement and validation before they're starting to build something tend to be the ones that would receive the grant. That would be kind of an area where you'll be marked on. Because you do want to go and build something and then realize nobody wants it. So the more of those early conversations you can have, the better. In terms of the founders, we look for good founder opportunity fit. So we look for you to be the right founder for that idea. So ideally, you should have worked in or know the industry really well, and there should be a significant match in terms of your background, your experience, your network, and where you're wanting to build this business. And then the last point is really understanding, what are you trying to prove with the money, the 35k expenditure, and what proof points will that get you to? How close to commercialization will that get you? In terms of eligibility for the grant, so you can apply as a sole trader, a partnership, or a limited company. In terms of the location requirement, the principal applicant must be resident in Northern Ireland. And if you're applying through a limited company, the limited company must be registered in Northern Ireland. And where we refer to the principal applicant for this competition, the principal applicant must be a female, must be a director in the company, and the majority shareholder of the company. I've mentioned previously that in terms of the employment costs, if you did want to apply for some of the money to cover your own time, you have to apply as a limited company. Unfortunately, if you apply through a sole trader or a partnership, you can't use some of the grant for your own time. In terms of those third-party costs and who you're appointing to spend the money on, ideally, we like to see that at application stage. So confirming, I want to spend money on X with Y. And ideally, if you had a quotation at application stage, that's useful as well. It's not necessary, but when it does get to award stage, we would ask for quotations at that stage so as we can really confirm the expenditure table and how you're going to spend the money. Unfortunately, if you have already received a grant of up to 35k from Techstart or Techstart investment funding, then you are unable to receive this female founders grant. If you've had one of our smaller grants of 10 or 15k, you can go for the female founders. So typically, and this is quite high level, and again, it varies depending on the idea and the stage and what you want to achieve. But typically, people would spend the grant on concept prototype development, further market research and validation, maybe the likes of going to a trade show, some focus groups, those types of things. Testing activities, to test and prove what you've built works. The grant can cover the assessment of uniqueness of IP, but that's only a small amount towards an IP search. And then, as I've touched on previously, employment costs. What the grant can't cover is actual IP protection. So unfortunately, it can't cover the likes of trademarks and patents, etc. I know there is some funding through Invest NI that can cover those activities, hence why we don't cover them. I think it's through their TDI grant. We can't cover costs that have been incurred outside the project timeframe. So if you do apply and you are successful, we can only cover costs post-award. So anything that you do between now and award, unfortunately, you can't reclaim. We don't cover laptops, tablets, equipment. We don't cover stock or office space. And further lists of eligible and non-eligible costs are available to read on our Techstart Grants website within the FAQs. So the competition itself is now open for applications. We already have had a few submissions, which is great. The closing date is not until the 27th of January. That's a Tuesday afternoon, and your application must be submitted online at 5 p.m. So you can scan the QR code, which should hopefully take you through to the website, and from there you can access the application form. So the process involves an online application form, which is relatively short, really asking you, about yourself, about your idea, about the market, what you want the money for. You must complete that and submit that by the deadline. We will then review the applications and invite a number of applicants to a pitch session. Those pitch sessions are scheduled to take place in the middle of February. Final sort of dates and times will be confirmed once you've been invited through. The dates we've booked in at the moment are the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 24th. The pitch session will take place online, so you will do a presentation on Zoom. Techstart Ventures and Women in Business will both be on the assessment panel. If you do get through to that stage, we will give you a presentation template asking you to cover certain areas just to make it an even playing field for everybody and making sure you're all kind of covering the areas that we want to assess. The pitch sessions usually take 20 minutes in total, and that will allow around 10 for your presentation to the panel and around 10 for questions afterwards. Once all pitches have taken place, everything will be formally reviewed and decisions will be made, and we hope to have decisions out by March. So that's an overview of the competition, and hopefully you've all noted down some questions. I will now hand over to Audrey and Leanne. So I will go on mute here.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Brilliant. So now that we've kind of talked through the theory of, what's going to happen, what's it going to look like, how does it work? The best place to learn is from people who have been there, done that, and have the badge. Leanne Schmitz is with us today. She came through last year through the Female Founders Program and was successful at winning one of the 35K grants. So thank you so much, Leanne, for taking time out of your busy schedule. We know you're a mom. We know you're an entrepreneur. You're all over the place like the rest of us. So thank you for saving us some time. I guess the best place to start is, could you tell us a bit about, yourself and your company, My Promo Pal?
Yep. Hi, everyone. Lovely to see you all. I recognize a few faces too. Yes, so I created My Promo Pal, which is a free app which allows consumers to get free drinks in bars across Ireland and Northern Ireland. The business side of that is the brands pay me and I help grow their brands. So my background is I have 20 years in marketing in drinks companies. So I'm not from a tech background, but I'm now obviously got a business in tech. So yeah, so that's me.
I think you're being a bit humble, and your founder opportunity fit with 20 plus years in Diageo is extreme. And
Yeah.
that really added a lot of weight to your application and your presentation because you knew the market and the industry inside and out. And could you talk to us a bit about some of the growth and some of what you've seen happen in your business since you started it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where I didn't need so much of the validation work because I knew the opportunity and I had obviously lived that so well. So yes, my business, I used the grant to get MVP, so minimal viable product. I last year has worked in the corporate world for so long that whenever I moved to startup, the lots of terminology is quite mind blowing. So yes, I got to an MVP and I launched with that. So I used the 35K, used a developer, got a website, the branding, and an app which I went live with. And within 2 months, I was being paid with through the app. And this year, for since 9 months since launch, I've generated 100K in revenue. So it's going really well. And I am now looking to expand into the UK, and I'm also chatting with brands in the US as well. So big expansion plans, yeah.
Yeah. And you went in head first. Like I remember at the time of applying for the grant, you were leaving your job, you were jumping in deep, and you have rapidly grown this business with the support of the grant and women in business, which is fantastic. Um, can you talk to us then a bit about the experience of, filling in the application form, doing the pitch, then, the pros and the cons, and don't hold back. We won't hurt
Yeah,
anyone's feelings. Tell them how it
absolutely.
goes.
And before I did the 35K, I applied for the proof of concept grant. And like I said, I was so green to this area and the terminology and what was expected. And I filled out the application, went through the process, and I didn't get it, which was a bit of a kicker. But I actually went for the feedback, and that was really, really useful. So they offer feedback from the session. I took those builds and I thought, right, I'm going to go for the 35K, which obviously taking that feedback on board, and then I was successful with that. I think really speaking to other entrepreneurs or people within the industry. So what I've really learned is like networking and your LinkedIn presence is really, really important. That's kind of what I changed between the first application and the second. I sort of ran it past some people, changed some terminology, made sure I was given enough detail within the application. Um, the pitch session then was great. I mean, it was 10 minutes, which sounds like a lot and it's really short. So again, I lent on my network to sort of check that I got enough information in the slides without them being too overwhelming. So, and then it was really, really great question and answering session as well.
And it wasn't as intimidating of what people see as like Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, like,
Oh,
it,
no,
it,
no, no, no. You were all very friendly. And they were really, it's all questions that I guess as a founder, so it's just being able to portray that. And I did actually ask for feedback, even though I was successful, I did ask for feedback after that session. And one of the feedbacks that I was given was that I didn't waffle too much with my answers. I was quite concise with what my response was. So I think females in general tend to over-explain a little bit. So that was the feedback that I got, that I sort of was quite concise in what I how I answered the questions. So.
Right. Thank you, Leanne. And I love the fact that, you've been transparent and you highlighted the fact that you came for the 10 or 15K and you weren't successful, but you still came back. Statistically, when females get told no, they see that as the end and they don't come back to us. Whereas you saw that as an opportunity to get feedback and improve. Would you encourage others to look at it the same way?
Oh yeah, 100%. There's a lot of different courses out there, and I then went on to be on a Founders Lab course. Again, I didn't get it first time either. It's a bit of a pattern here, but yeah, you just have to keep going. There's big numbers, there's lots of ideas out there, and it's just resilience really, and learning why you didn't get it the first time. But networking is a massive, massive part, and reaching out and connecting with the people in the grants and the people that have done the grants before, asking for any advice. That everyone's always so friendly and willing to help. So I recommend doing that, and I'm happy to speak to anyone as well on this call. So yeah.
And your last group kind of formed a bit of a cohort as well. Can you talk to a bit about the experience of, working with your Women in Business mentor and the other group of winners that you were with?
Yeah, the mentorship is just so valuable. They have already established that network. They're paired to you based on your needs and where your gaps are or where you need the help. So that Women in Business and I had a chat about that where I saw that I needed the help. So they're really great at sort of opening doors, encouraging, and also they're a bit of a neutral sounding board as well. So that they're very encouraging, but directional as well, which was really great. And then yes, the cohort of women that also won the grant, we started a little WhatsApp group, and we were encouraging each other. We're all in different fields, but it was really nice just to sort of start building that entrepreneurial tribe, I call it. So your network of people that are a similar situation to you.
So even with being successful in all this, and obviously everything's moving through at a rapid pace and going very positively for you, looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently or that you would recommend others to think about as they're going through the process that you wish you had been told? Sorry, I didn't prep you for this one.
No, 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 that's fine. Yeah, no, I think it was good that I was turned down. Like I really think that was the learning curve for me. I probably would have liked to have understood the sort of opportunities and how it all works a bit earlier on. I've kind of learned that as I've went along. Even you talking about, that you can go on to raise funds and, all that was, just didn't make sense to me at the start. So I probably would have liked to have been a bit better informed of the whole full picture. I was very much focused on, okay, I just need money to get this idea and get it started. I hadn't really thought as far as, and what if I start making a business and how do I keep it, running and things like that. So I probably would have liked to have been a bit better informed at the start. I probably was a bit too focused on just getting it live. I would recommend you definitely do your market research and validation and things like that because it is really important before you launch. Launch is kind of the last thing you should do. Would be my advice.
Very good. And then looking forward, now that we've looked back, where's the future for My Promo Pal? Like you said, you've just come off Founder Labs. You've been speaking to lots of investors and other people. Like, where are you going to next?
Yeah, so Founder Lab was really, really great in helping me on that journey, understanding about investment. So I have bootstrapped. Again, this is all terminology that I had no idea what it was at the start, which just basically means I've self-funded along the way. And, I can't express how much this grant got me started because it basically paid for my product to go live. But the rest of the funding I have subsidized. There's been quite a few grants available, as you mentioned. There's Go Succeed, so there's little pots along the way that you can help as well. So I have bootstrapped up to this point, and whilst I am revenue generating, if I want to accelerate at growth and scale across multiple countries, I have made the decision that I would like to raise funding now. So basically, what that means is give away part of my company in return for some funding to allow me to recruit other people and expand into my marketing and things into other countries. So that's the part that I'm in now. I'm in the raising process now. So
Very good. No, the best of luck with that. And I guess the last thing to highlight is if you haven't done it already, make sure you go away and download Leanne's app. The opportunity to get a free drink out across the region is fantastic, and she has turned me on to some interesting new cocktails and mocktails along the way.
thanks, Audrey.
Brilliant. I think that's kind of questions from there. So I guess now kind of hopefully we've set the scene for you all about kind of how it works, how people are experiencing it, and there's quite a few questions in the chat. So we'll jump into those, but don't be shy. Raise your hand, ask questions, because this is the opportunity to get as much out of this as you can.
Perfect. Thanks, Audrey, and thanks, Leanne. That's super inspirational. So what I'm going to do is I'll just take us through each question, and then Audrey, Kathleen, and team, you can let me know who wants to answer this, but I'll read the questions and it gives you a little bit of thinking time because we've got lots flying in. So first question from Kira, do you require the suppliers or breakdown of expenditure before applying, or is it determined after the grant is awarded?
So there is a question in the application form at the end that asks you to provide a table, just a summary of how you want to spend the money. So yes, you will be required to do that within the application. I will highlight though that that doesn't necessarily have to be set in stone. So by the time you reach the pitch session, if the proposed expenditure has changed, that's okay. And again, at the award stage, before we issue the legally binding contract of the grant, where the expenditure table will be within, we will have a conversation with you and make sure this is still how you want to spend the grant. Usually it doesn't change from application to award stage, but on some occasions it does. But yes, in short, the answer to that question is yes.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. And I just wanted to add, while I remember that there's the opportunity to speak to Kathleen and Audrey on office hours, isn't that right? So people could book an appointment with you after this session, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, if there's a direct question that we don't cover in here, we
Today,
can definitely jump on a call as well.
Perfect. Thank
Adding
you.
on to Kathleen's bit, this is also a good point. If you're looking at your suppliers to potentially find that first employee, that co-founder, that someone without giving up equity in your business. So using the grant money to pay them for the service and to test ride them out to make sure that's the right fit before you start giving up any of the ownership and something you've created as well.
Yeah. And the other thing as well to think about, depending on what you want the money for and who you're proposing to use, it's definitely worthwhile speaking around. So speaking to other founders to see if they've maybe used that supplier, if they've got any, feedback or recommendations, and trying to get maybe more than one quote, depending on the activity. It's definitely just do your research.
And if they're local, don't say it's a Techstart grant because it instantly becomes 15K or 30K cost. So, keep it vague when you're shopping around.
Yeah, so that value for money piece.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. The next question from Grace: how quickly in instalments are you reimbursed after you have, say, paid £5,000 of your own money to a developer for an instalment of work? How quickly would you get that 5K back? So yeah, what's the turnaround time? Important for cash flow.
Yeah, so to draw down the money, again, this will all be detailed in the paperwork, but you do need to provide us with certain documentation, which would be the likes of an invoice, your bank statement showing the payment, and a receipt. So that's typically the three documents we require. Once you have submitted those to us and we have those three documents, we try to get the money paid within 10 working days. So the only delay there may be if you've forgotten to append your bank statement and we've had to chase you for that, or maybe like a holiday season might prolong it slightly, but usually we're quite quick in getting them turned around.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. Yes, it was really smooth process claiming, and we did that quite regular, and it was about within 2 weeks, so it was great.
That's great and reassuring, I'm sure, for people to hear that. Thank you. The next question from Elodie: does the fund support service innovation? For example, developing a proprietary repeatable methodology for a new market sector, or must there be a software, hardware product involved?
Unfortunately, we don't cover services businesses unless it's like software as a service.
Yes, I think we would need to understand where the innovation is. So if it's just something that you're trying to build to grow and scale your own business internally, most likely not. If it's something you're trying to build to sell to other people who are like yourselves, then probably. So it's well worth reaching out and just having a quick 15-minute chat so we're very clear, so that way we don't waste anybody's time, but we'd be happy to go into detail about that later, Elodie.
Good, and we'll send details after this about how you can go ahead and book an appointment with Kathleen or Audrey. Good question here from Sarah Scullion. Does an equal shareholder qualify? So is it if 50-50 shares with the male co-founder? I know in your slides, Kathleen, you said majority shareholder.
Yeah, I did say majority shareholder, but 50-50 is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris is okay, Sarah.
Okay. The next question from Hayat. If you're from Ireland and not Northern Ireland, are you ineligible to apply? So do you have to be based in Northern Ireland, registered? What does that mean?
Yeah. So you have to be resident in Northern Ireland. So
Okay. You
if
have
you're
to
from
live
somewhere
here.
else and living in Northern Ireland, that's fine. So you have to be resident here. And if you have a registered company, it must be registered in Northern Ireland. So it must be an NI entity.
Right, that's very clear. Thank you. The next question from Desiree. Do you have to be registered at application stage, either as a sole trader or limited company, or can you register at a later stage with the plan to set up a company?
You don't need to be registered at application stage. You can just apply as an individual at this stage. And then when it comes to actually awarding the grant, we can have a conversation at that stage whether you intend on registering a company. So some people just apply as an individual and then at the award stage they would register then.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Next question from Caroline. What is the time scale for activity after the awards have been made? So how soon do the award winners have to get started and perhaps spend the money even?
Yeah, so once the award has been made, so say you've been notified at the beginning of March, you would have a number of weeks to confirm your proposed expenditure with us and for us to issue the paperwork. Once the paperwork has been issued and signed by both parties, so it's a legally binding contract that you're agreeing to receive this grant, etc. And there's lots of terms and conditions within that. We usually give people 6 to 9 months to spend and draw down the money. Some people get it done really quickly before the 6 months. Other people, depending on how things progress, may have to ask for an extension. But typically the time frame's 6 to 9 months, but it can be longer if necessary.
Thank you. The next is a comment from Lynn, who says the grant sounds fantastic. She isn't sure if her business is the right fit. She's pretty early on, but really delighted to hear about the opportunity and to hear from Leanne. And she's also mentioned she's just completed Go Succeed and the mentor was invaluable. And I guess we heard that from Leanne. Her experience of having a mentor on this program was equally invaluable. So thanks for sharing that, Lynn. The next question now from Leanne. Can you apply for the Invest NI project definition and grant for R&D in addition to this fund for the same concept?
I think the short answer to that is yes. You just need to ensure that there's no double funding and that you're not asking for the grants to cover the same activities. Our funding is provided by Invest Northern Ireland. So if you did apply for their grants and were successful with ours, usually Invest reach out to us just to double check what you're spending this grant on to make sure there's no overlap there. But yes, you can avail of other grants at the same time as this.
Okay, just not for the same activity.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next question from Steph. She a comment actually. She also, like Leanne, didn't get the proof of concept grant, but she did get really helpful feedback, so that's encouraging. So yeah, great to get that feedback. The next question here is from Quirin. If you go for the proof of concept grant first, will you be able to go for the female founders one in a next stage?
Yes, so I did cover, the other grants that we have available, and that's why I did that, because not everybody will want to go for this female founders next. Other people may decide to go for our smaller concept grant. You can do so, and if you're successful and spend the money, it's just worth staying in touch with us whenever this competition reopens, just to make sure that you're still eligible at that stage. But yes, in short, you can have a small grant and then come back for the next female founders grant.
Okay, so 2 grants, but they're slightly different in that one's larger, effectively. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One thing to flag though is if you get the big grant first, you cannot go backwards and then go for the small grant. So the small grant is traditionally for someone who has an idea but nothing built, where the larger grants are, you're in the mix a bit more. So the female founders grant would fall under that slightly larger grant. So just be
Yeah,
aware.
so you can come in and apply for the 15K and then go for our standard Concept Plus, or you can come in for the 15K and then go for female founders. What Audrey's saying there is you can't come in for a Concept Plus and then for female founders. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, because they're the same effectively in terms of size. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next is a comment from Antonella, who is making an award-winning plant-based cheese, which sounds very intriguing. But she is asking, is that something in terms of innovation that Techstart would fund? There's a gap in the market. She's looking, but is that the kind of project that is open to the Female Founders Programme?
Yes, it may be, and we've seen sort of similar food-based applicants come forward. It might be worthwhile arranging a separate call just for us to understand it a bit more first, before I confirm at this stage. I don't know whether, Audrey, you want to add to that.
Yeah, the grant, to clarify again, does not have to be technology based. It can be product based as well. It's just the novelty and innovation at its core that needs to be there. So that is one we can take offline to confirm with you, to make sure.
Thank you. And similarly, I guess on the flip side of that is Becky's question, where her business is heavily deep tech, health tech, and is that within scope?
Essentially, yes, as long as no IP is owned by a university. So as long as you own all the intellectual property, it can be deep tech, and that obviously gets us excited. So it's just being clear on, where that IP lands.
Thank you. The next question is from Mary, and I might take that question. So Mary asks about the bespoke mentoring. Is it one-to-one, and are the dates fixed or flexible? So Mary, we so Women in Business arranges the mentoring. We would have a conversation with the successful grant awardees to understand what their needs are. So in Leanne's case, we actually matched Leanne with 2 mentors because she had 2 slightly different needs. So we matched her with 2 mentors, and then really it was over to Leanne and the mentors to fix those meetings together. And that relationship goes on. I think we suggest to the mentors it lasts for 6 to 9 months, and typically in mentoring relationships we would suggest that you meet every 6 weeks, but it is very much down to the individual. So very flexible, very bespoke. Leanne, would you comment anything in addition to that?
Yeah, agreed. Very flexible. Some of them were Zoom, some of them were in person, some of them were going for lunch. So, real flexible, and yeah, really strong relationships even now after it. Yeah. So yeah, it's great.
That's great to know. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Next question from Cora. If you were providing a product through a service that could expand globally, are you still eligible?
Yeah, from from your question, I would say yes. But again, if you did want to arrange a conversation with us ahead of the closing date, just for us to understand your business further, we could clarify it more then.
Mhm. Next question is from Rachel. We're going to be working with AMIC, so that's the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Centre at Queen's University, to undertake R&D. We're applying for innovation vouchers with AMIC. Could we use this funding to top up innovation grants?
It
So
wouldn't be uncommon. Sorry, Kath, jumping ahead of you.
you got it.
It wouldn't be uncommon for people to have an innovation voucher first and then go on to get one of our grants, because sometimes that work helps provide some of the market validation, and some of the underlying work that you need to do to set the foundation up for your business. So depending on where you are and where they are at with those innovation vouchers, you might want to time your run as to when best to approach the grant, maybe after you've completed the innovation voucher, or if it's close to done, then looking at applying it as well. But if you have anything more to add, Kathleen?
No, I think you've covered it, Audrey.
Thank you. The next question is from Suzanne. We're not yet incorporated and are currently based within our universities exploring routes to spin out. Could you clarify eligibility for teams at this stage and whether university involvement affects grant applications?
So yeah, Susan, unfortunately, things that are associated with the university in which they have IP in, this grant cannot cover, because Invest and I has its own POC grants for the universities, which those two traditionally routes go down. So I think we would just need to understand before you applied where the IP is sitting. And if there's nothing within the university, then yes, you could probably come through and come to us. But if there is ownership within the university, then it would be outside of the realms of what we could support.
Okay, thanks. The next question from Cora. Is there a specific time frame required to execute the end goal? As in, if you propose an idea, could it take up to a year to execute? So yeah, so what's the timeline, the deadline?
Yeah, I think I maybe covered that earlier, where it said usually 6 to 9 months, but if people need to take longer, they can. So if you think it might take up to a year, that's fine. If we give someone 9 months and they hit a hurdle and it's taken longer, we can extend the time frame to the year if needs be. But from the outset, if you know it's going to take a year, we can discuss that, and within our paperwork, we can give you the year to spend the money and execute the.
Question from Imelda. Can you apply for the Concept Plus and female founders at the same time? So can you just go in, all three, hope one of them works out? Are there timelines and deadlines and application closing dates? Would they enable that, or are they staggered?
They're staggered. So keep an eye on our website and LinkedIn where the closing dates are advertised. So we will not be open for Concept and Concept Plus till later in the year. So April, sort of May time. So where this one closes in January.
Yeah, you could look at, and Kathleen may kill me for saying it, you could look at the regional ones that'll be opening this week as well.
Where you live.
Yeah, the risks are, if it is successful in both, you could only do one. You can't do them both at the exact same time. They can't cover the exact same work. And you wouldn't have time to have gotten feedback from one or the other in the time if you were unsuccessful. So it's just bearing in mind, you can look at all these things at the same time, but there are risks associated.
Yeah. And also we should highlight that if you do go for Concept Plus, we have a limit on the number of times you can apply. So you can only have 2 unsuccessful applications. So you might be better spreading your bets and say, for example, going for Concept, and if you're unsuccessful, get feedback and then reapply. Whereas if you're going in at the same time, it's riskier.
Yeah, so that's a really good point then, Kathleen. So you can only apply for any of those different grants twice. So you can't apply twice to Concept Plus. It's twice would be one each. Okay.
No, that's just our standard Concept and Concept Plus. It doesn't count for female founders because it's a separate competition.
Yeah.
And it's unsuccessful, so you can apply once, be unsuccessful, apply again, be successful, and then apply again for the next one. So it is a bit complicated. So if you are going through that journey, once again, don't hesitate reaching out to us, and we can clarify in or out, up or down. We're happy to do so.
And I think there's been a strong message today about the value of the feedback. So perhaps submitting applications at the same time isn't as wise as submitting one, being unsuccessful, getting the feedback and then improving next time. That feels like that's clear. So Caroline's question here. Sorry, was there something?
Sorry, I was just going to clarify. Did you say that you can only apply for all of the applications twice or to each one twice?
All of them twice, but whenever we say all, we mean concept, concept plus. So
Okay.
there will be some people here who have maybe came through concept or concept plus twice unsuccessfully,
Yeah.
but they're still able to go for female founders.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
so our strike rule is on our standard concept, concept plus.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. So Caroline's question, it may have been answered, but I'll just read it just to make sure we've not missed anything. Is it possible to arrange a chat for advice to decide if proof of concept funding or female founders funding is more appropriate at this stage? And she's just asked about the timing of the concept funding. So we've heard that'll be in April.
Yeah, and then just as Audrey's mentioned again there, the regional one should hopefully launch tomorrow. And that's where we're offering concept grants. And the difference between regional and concept is in the concept round, you're competing Northern Ireland wide, where the regional one, you're going to be grouped within regions depending on your council area. And there'll be more information online, hopefully tomorrow on that.
Great, thank you. And then I think we've got our final question here from Jennifer. So she tells us a bit about her business. So her MVP is due to launch to test beta. Her business is in the health tech space. It uses AI to help predict and prevent sensory overload for neurodivergent people. She's got a waiting list of 700 plus. She's a solo founder with a background in engineering. Would this be a good fit regarding the stage it's at? So is this too advanced, too early? What's
So my advice for something like this one is, it is a proof of concept grant. So there still needs to be something left to prove. There still needs to be some form of risk. And only you know what that is. You most likely won't be successful if you're just coming in saying, I need to get some UI, UX help changing colors from blue to purple because that's the feedback I've received. But if you're coming in saying, I've taken it to market with my beta, and fundamentally I'm being told if I had X, Y, and Z, that's how I can commercialize this. And it would be that which you would need to be spinning. So reaching out, having the quick chat just to make sure what you have left to make sure it's large enough would be valuable. And then making sure in the presentation, if you come through, you don't over egg the pud and sell that, it's already done if there's still something to prove, because at the end of the day, it is a proof of concept grant.
Right. Thank you, Audrey. And thanks everyone for those questions. There's a lot in there. And as I've mentioned, this session is recorded. It'll be sent out to you hopefully tomorrow, and then you can rewatch it. And then we'll also send you the links about how you can set up a call with Kathleen and with Audrey. So thanks, Kathleen and Audrey and Leanne as well for sharing all the information about this programme. Before we head off and you can get on with the rest of your day, I just wanted to tell you about a couple of opportunities that are coming up with Women in Business. And the first one is our Women in Business Awards, which take place in March. So they are our 14th annual awards, and applications for the awards close on Monday, the 19th of January at noon. And as you're all female founders, this is an amazing opportunity for you to promote yourself and celebrate your success. Or it might be an opportunity for you to nominate one of your colleagues, your friends, someone in your community. We're holding a webinar tomorrow, which will explain how to create an award-winning entry. It's taking place tomorrow between 12 and 1. You can register for that. It will be recorded and the recording will be sent to you. So if you aren't able to attend, do still register, because you can get the recording and watch it afterwards. So celebrate your success, celebrate the success of those around you, and nominate by the closing date on the 19th of January. And then just one more slide here to tell you what we've got coming on over the next few weeks. For our entrepreneurs, we have a monthly lunchroom. So that's an opportunity to mix with other entrepreneurs online. And the next one is Monday, the 12th of January. We'll be in Derry next week in Fujitsu's office for an in-person networking morning. We have an online webinar in a couple of weeks for women who are in the beauty, health and wellness industry. This is an opportunity to connect with others. It's a discussion, it's a roundtable with a speaker. So that's quite a dynamic group if you are in that sector. And then we'll be bringing entrepreneurs together at the Rabbit Hotel. So a lovely opportunity to go to the Rabbit on the 3rd of February. And that's a morning to mix with other entrepreneurs, to hear from our guest speaker and to help grow your network and your business. So thank you again for everyone for joining us today. Any questions, please let us know, and we will be sending, as I've said, the recording of the video and ways to contact Kathleen and Audrey in the next few days. Have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.